So the Miami Heat schedule dropped yesterday, and after absolutely zero thoughts and consideration, I'm going to tell you exactly how every single game is going to go. No, but seriously, this is something I like to do every year after the schedule drops. I like to, do a win-loss, or I guess play, that's a win, that's a loss, as my guys Tobin and Leroy like to call it. Well, I guess that again, not Leroy, because he doesn't really appreciate this game if y'all watch that show. But I like the game, so I want to kind of just speak from the heart here, say the first thing that comes to mind with regards to every game, and at the end, we'll see what I predict the Heat's record to be, and by the end of April, we'll see how accurate or likely not accurate I was. Plus, in this video, it'll give us a chance to kind of talk about some of the quirks in the schedule, and also mention some of the things that people are mad about or have noticed, and etc. Starting with the very first game against the Orlando Magic, of course, because every single year it seems like they start against them or the Grizzlies. And I will say, I think the Magic are in for an awesome season. I think they will capitalize on the, I was going to say great run they had last year. It wasn't great. They lost in the first round, but relative to expectations, it's clear that the Magic are building something pretty nice over there. But I do think the Heat are going to come into this season with a vengeance as well, and they're going to kick that Orlando Magic ass at home. I hope so, because the Heat's home record last year was abysmal. So hopefully they get things off to a very nice start here. And then they got another tone setter game, the next one versus Charlotte, which I'm also going to dub as a win. I guess I should note that I'm denoting that by putting green marks for wins and red marks for losses, and we'll tally it up at the end. But I said it's a kind of a measuring stick game. It shouldn't be, right? Because the Miami Heat theoretically have championship aspirations. I don't know if that's actually true, but if they lose to the Hornets in the second game of the year, well, then we know it's the same old Miami Heat that can't beat good teams. But if they go out there and smack that Hornets ass, as they should, maybe things will be different this year. So I do think they get a win there, followed by another win versus the Detroit Pistons. Actually, isn't that who the Heat played the very first game last season, and they almost lost because Cade Cunningham almost hit a buzzer beater? And yeah, that set the tone for that Heat season, because they had a lot of close calls versus bad teams and lost to a lot of bad teams. But I'm going to be optimistic going into this year and say that they start the season 3-0, beating up on a couple of bad teams. But then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the Red, because they play the New York Knicks next. And talking about a team that's going to come out with a vengeance, that's going to be the New York Knicks. That team scares the hell out of me, and I hate to even utter the words, the Knicks scare me. But I don't want to underestimate that Mikal Bridges pickup. The kind of defensive versatility that team has now between him and OG Anunoby, two guys that consistently give Jimmy problems, that does scare me. Now, I will say I think Jimmy's in for a vengeance this season. He's kind of sort of in a contract year. I mean, not really, because he has a player option. But I think he's going to go balls to the walls this year, even though he might be a co-star to Bam, too. But I think both those guys are going to have great years. But I think they're going to struggle with the Knicks. So I got the Heat dropping to 3-1. I'll continue the trend, I guess, of beating bad teams. They will beat Washington in Mexico City. That team's going to suck. Alexander Sarr was so bad. He had a game so bad in the Summer League that he changed his number. Have y'all ever seen that before? I have not. Then they do play the Sacramento Kings at home. I'll give them another dub to kind of keep the train rolling. I do like the pickup of DeMar DeRozan for the Kings. I don't know if that team will have playoff success, but I do think the Heat walk away with a dub here to put them at 5-1. And I think this is where the Heat might start to show a little bit of, or get their first sense of adversity, because they have 3 games coming up on the road versus very, very good teams. Well, I'm not super scared of the Suns, but I do think they get a loss here just because they had some early season success, but they're not winning in Denver and they're not winning in Minnesota. If you guys have watched the Heat for any number of years now, you know they don't beat these teams, a trend that's been going on since the Timberwolves had Andrew Wiggins. They can't seem to beat that team. For some reason, it seems like that team has Jimmy Butler's number, and obviously they really never win in Denver besides Game 2 in the 2023 NBA Finals. But then it was all downhill from there. But anyways, looks like we got a couple of, what are these, the in-season tournament games here, and it's the first one versus the Pistons and then versus Indiana. Man, winning in Indiana is hard, and that's something they seem to struggle with a bunch too. So I will give them the win versus Detroit, but I think I got them with a loss against Indiana here. I really, really do. But that being said, I will have them bouncing back the next game. Looks like they play back-to-back games at Indiana. The way the schedule is now, I guess it started last year, where you kind of play these baseball-like series, playing the same team 2 or 3 times in a row. It's very difficult for one team to sweep that kind of series. So I do think the Heat are able to split here, and then they kind of break their little rut by beating the Philadelphia 76ers at home, which will just be a monster game. Obviously, Philly, they got a lot of hype coming into the season because they have playoff P, way off P, choker P, pandemic P, whatever the hell you want to call that bum. He stinks. Caleb Martin, I do like a lot, and I hope he doesn't torch the Heat this game. I mean, he very well might, but as long as the Heat win, I'm cool with that. But overall, Philly doesn't scare me, so I do think the Heat get a nice statement win here. Then it's nice. They got a whole week off. I guess this is because the election is going on during this time, and then they bounce back with a game versus Dallas, who is going to be a very, very good team. This is a game I might be attending. I mean, it's on a Sunday. Y'all know I'm in Fort Myers, a couple hours away, so maybe I do a little day trip. That'll be fun. But I do think that the Heat end up getting a win here because why the hell not? Followed by a loss to Milwaukee just because they beat a nice Dallas team. Let's say they have a little bit of a letdown here, and then they should beat the Charlotte Hornets, and they should beat the Toronto Raptors because both those teams are gonna suck. Followed by another game versus the Toronto Raptors, and then we'll have the Heat getting a loss to the Boston Celtics here. I really wonder if the Celtics are going to have like a championship hangover here just because they won last year. But I hear all this stuff like, oh, Jason Tatum's going to play hard for MVP because he didn't play in the Olympics, and Jaylen Brown's going to play hard because he got snubbed. And I think that's a whole bunch of BS. That team in general they scare me. They're obviously a very good team, but I feel like if the Heat could just get some more size, they could really compete with that team. And if Khalil Ware does bring that, I mean, he won't bring it immediately, but if he can slowly start to help as the season goes on, I think he's a guy that could really be a key if we were to face off against Celtics in the postseason, several months down the line. I know it's bad to be relying on a rookie like that, but in general, I still think Jason Tatum's a fraud. Jaylen Brown's a good player, but that team, they're not built the same. The Heat got more dogs, and I think that's evident. And then I do think that the Heat get a couple nice wins here versus the LA Lakers and the Phoenix Suns to kind of get their get back for losing to Phoenix early. That Lakers ticket's probably going to be the most expensive ticket. I'd love to go see LeBron again. It's been quite some time since I've seen him. I think the last time I saw him was in his game where he played in Miami, his first game back after going back to Cleveland. So I guess that was in 2014 on Christmas, I believe. So I'll say the Heat get a couple nice wins there. They'll lose to Cleveland at home because that team I also think is going to be very good, and they have a lot of size issues here. And now we got this in-season tournament crap, which I still hate. Y'all know I'm not a big fan of that. I think I'm in the minority, though. Most people seem to like it. We don't know what the schedule is, but I do see, looking here, the teams they play in the in-season tournament consist of the Bucks, the Pacers, the Raptors, and the Pistons. So I don't know how I'm supposed to go about doing this. I want to give the Heat an actual 82-game record prediction here. So let me see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They got 8 games here. Quick editor note. I realized later on in the video that I made a mistake when calculating these in-season tournament games because obviously they don't play every day for 8 days straight, but I'll explain my correction later in the video. They want to win an NBA championship. Don't give a damn about the in-season championship. So I got them going 4-4 there. They'll probably lose to OKC and Orlando because, like I said, OKC is very good, and Orlando probably get some get back there. And I also need to start adding up some losses here because I don't want to finish this prediction and they got 61 wins or something crazy like that. I know I tweeted that out, but that was just jokes. They're not going to win 60-plus games. They'll beat Brooklyn. That team sucks. I think they get their get back with Orlando. They always seem to be tough in Atlanta, and I haven't really given the Heat a bad loss yet. So let's say that they lose to Atlanta. And screw it. Let's say they lose to Houston, right? Houston, they got a nice young team. They're fast. Let's say the Heat have a pretty bad month of December. They bounce back in the new year. We're feeling all good with a great win versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Who knows? Maybe Brandon Ingram's on the Heat by then. I don't know. Then they got to beat Indiana here. This will be a monster game because I'm predicting we'll be pretty close in the standings. Utah's kind of going to suck. I'll say the Heat I said they beat Sacramento at home. So let's say they lose to Sacramento here. They play very well in Golden State. They beat that team a few times. I'll say they get a dub. And then they got to beat Utah again. And then they got to beat that bum Joe Cronin. Petty for life. They better smack the hell out of that stinky-ass Portland team. Same thing with the Clippers. I will say that the Lakers do beat us since we beat them at home. And the Heat are probably going to lose to Denver again because that team is pretty damn good. And I think they had a couple nice pickups this offseason as well. Going into this game on Sunday versus San Antonio Spurs, a game that I will be at 99% sure. So if y'all happen to be there too, come say what's up. I know that's like 5 months from now, whatever. But I'll probably be there because it's a couple days before my boy Thomas's birthday. He is a Spurs fan, kinda. He was when Kawhi was there, and then Kawhi left, so he didn't like them as much. But now that they're probably going to be relatively good again, maybe, he likes them. And it's a few days before his birthday. We both want to see Wemby. We will probably be there. And I have a great record when going to games. Thank you very much. I ain't no jinx. So we'll say that they beat the Spurs, followed by another win versus the Blazers. They lost to the Bucks earlier this season, so they'll beat them here. They'll beat Brooklyn again. They'll beat Orlando again, and this time they beat the Cavaliers. So at this point of the season, going into February, we're saying we're feeling all good. We're going into the Super Bowl break here. The Heat are on a 6-game win streak. We think all is right in the world. And then that's probably when we start to get let down just a little bit. We'll give them a couple back-to-back losses here versus an okay team. And then the Chicago Bulls, they'll probably lose to as well. Just a little bit of a letdown. And then Philly, right? That's how this Heat team works. It's a long roller coaster. We're saying they're going to win the championship, and then they probably get their ass kicked by Philly. And y'all know the drill. We've been saying this for 6 years now. Every year, the Jimmy Butler era, we're going to be saying, oh, wow, they need to make some changes. I don't know when the trade deadline is. Did it just pass? I think that might have been what that break is too. I forget when. It might be the end of this month. Either way, we're going to be saying, oh, the wheels are falling off. Make some trades. And then they're going to go out and probably lose to a Brooklyn team too, now that I say. So they go from winning 6 straight to losing 4 straight. Y'all know how the deal goes with this Heat team. And then they're going to, wow, this is a tough stretch coming up though. Sheesh. Then they got Boston, OKC, Dallas, Milwaukee. Is this where we start to feel good about the Heat again? Not yet. I got them with a loss versus Boston. Damn. They winless through the first half of February. Then they go on the road to OKC. Okay. They'll beat OKC because they lost to them at home. And then let's say they lose to Dallas because they beat them at home. And now you got another big break here for All-Star break. So yeah, I think the trade deadline's after All-Star break, or it's around that time. Either way, they need to beat Toronto because that team sucks, although they got some nice young pieces as well. And then let's say they get a nice win versus Milwaukee because they need some wins at this point. It's February, looking at ugly. Back-to-back wins versus Atlanta. Like I said, it's hard to win back-to-back games versus the same team. So let's say they lose the road game and they win the home game. Monster game versus the Pacers. It's been sort of an iffy month, up and down. This is a game the Heat need to win, and will they? I don't think so, just because last year they had another huge game versus Indiana they needed to win to avoid the play-in, and they lost. And this could be a similar situation because we're getting late in the season, and it might be a do or die. So I'm just going to say that history repeats itself. That's all. Then they play the New York Knicks. They're not going to go winless versus the Knicks this year, right? They'll feel a little bit better. They got the Knicks. They got Washington the next night. Probably win both of those. Let's say they get another loss versus Cleveland. They're going to lose to Minnesota. I have no faith in them beating Minnesota at all this season. But then you do got the Chicago Bulls. They got to beat them this time. Same with the Hornets. Let's say they sweep the Clippers this season. And let's say they get a win versus Boston. We going into the end of the season, and we going to say this Heat team is peaking at the right time. And just when we say that, they're going to lose to a game versus Memphis. Once again, the roller coaster of the NBA season. So when y'all are depressed later in the season because we just blew out Boston or beat Boston and then go ahead and lose to Memphis, and we'll say they lose to the Knicks too, don't be saying that the wheels are falling off. It's not expected. This is the NBA, y'all. It's a roller coaster. Last team standing wins. And I think going to the playoffs, the Heat will be just fine because they're going to beat Detroit. They'll beat Houston this time. They'll beat Charlotte. They'll beat Golden State. They'll beat Atlanta. And they're beating up on these bad teams. So like the Dolphins, we said last year, we feeling good. And then they play a good team in Philly. And then they probably going to lose. So now as Heat fans, we might be all confused again. Is this Heat team good? Are they not? I don't know. They'll be Washington as we round out March here to go into April. I don't have faith in the Heat winning in Boston. They should beat Memphis this time. We'll say they get another win versus Milwaukee just because they do match up well against them. Bam plays very well. I think they get their get back with Philly. I think they get their get back with Chicago. And let's say because they're not going to lose to Washington, right? But I also don't think they end the season on a 6-game win streak. So let's say they lose at New Orleans and they lose at the Washington Wizards. And this is my final prediction for the Miami Heat this season. It took us 15 minutes to get here, but we are here. So let me go ahead and take a minute and tally this up, and I'll tell y'all what my official prediction is, just coming from the heart. So my dumb ass, when I tallied up the numbers, came to a total of 88 games. And obviously that's because I realized I counted every single day of the in-season tournament. when they won't be playing every day. So I did decide just to eliminate those 8 days. I had them going 4-4 anyways. So regardless, I have them at 80 games here total. That doesn't include the 2 extra in-season tournament playoffs or whatever. And that has the Heat at 48 and 32 wins. So my official prediction for the Heat outside of those remaining 2 in-season tournament games is 48 and 32. Now, 48 wins last year would have been good enough for 4th in the Eastern Conference. That would have been tied with the Cavs. And you had the Knicks at number 2 with 50 wins. So theoretically, I have the Heat placing anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe 2 to 5 in the Eastern Conference. Is that realistic? Maybe, maybe not. Because, I mean, if you look at the teams last year, they probably won't have a better record than Boston. Probably not the Knicks. Likely not the Bucks or Cavs. Or I'd say probably not those 4 for sure. Probably not Philly. So that's 5 teams right there that'll probably be ahead of them. But then the Magic were ahead of them last year. Theoretically, they should be better. They got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a young core that's better. You got the Indiana Pacers, same deal. They got young guys that should be better. So it's possible the Heat don't surpass any of those teams. Now, what I am kind of neglecting there is the fact that the Heat's probably also got better. It's tough to say. Obviously, they lost a guy like Caleb Martin, but you got a lot of young pieces on this roster too, and it's hard to say exactly how those guys will perform. Can a guy like Khalil Ware come in and really contribute right away? Can a guy like Kashad Johnson, who I love and I think he will contribute, but I don't know for sure. How much of a step will the young kids like Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic take? I don't know. But but there is a possibility that all those young guys really take a big leap and are ready to play now. And in that situation, it'd be best case scenario, maybe the Heat could finish top 4. And I guess, you know, through my preliminary schedule prediction here, that is what I have the Heat sitting at. Now, I will say some of these other quirks that people are talking about is Ira Winman put out some pretty good tweets here that the Heat and Dolphins play on the same day 4 times for all my other Dolphin fans out there. I'm certainly excited for football season coming up, but only during one of those games will they actually probably be playing at the same time. And it's when the Heat play the Houston Rockets on December 29th. That's at 7 p.m. and the Dolphins have a night game versus the Browns at 8:20. So that'll be a good matchup. Luckily, the Heat and Panthers play on the same nights less times than last year because that was a huge flaw in the schedule really these last few seasons. This year, they play on the same night 25 times. That's 11 fewer times than last season, which I think is important because in the past, it seems like the schedule makers didn't care about the Panthers because maybe not as many people were watching. But obviously, being the Stanley Cup champions, people will be watching, including myself. So I am glad that there's less conflicts there. And then the Heat and the Hurricanes football team also play on the same day twice. Once against Florida State. I am looking forward to that. And then another game versus Duke, which I expect the Heat to, or the Hurricanes to get killed because the Duke now has Manny Diaz. And I hate that bum, which is exactly why I think he's coming for a revenge game. But anyways, I'm not super hopeful on the Hurricanes to begin with. If Cam Ward comes in and balls out, I'll be thrilled. But I've learned as a Hurricanes fan to sort of temper my expectations there. Really, the only other thing as far as the schedule that a lot of people are up in a tizzy about is the lack of national TV games. I think last year they were at 16. If you don't count NBA TV, that's just a fraudulent national television. Nobody watches NBA TV. Well, I do sometimes. It's okay. But when you're talking national TV, you're talking ESPN, you're talking TNT, you're talking ABC, and the Heat went from 16 of those last year to only 7 this season. People are mad about it. I don't care because I'm watching my boys Eric Reed and John Crotty on Bally Sports anyways, if they're still on Bally. Wasn't there some like controversy with that or a deal ending? I don't know. But either way, I'm watching local. Y'all should too. The national media is ass. So tune into John Crotty and Eric Reed. But that's all I got to say for this video. Let me know y'all thoughts and comments down below. I'll be reading every single comment. Drop your predictions for the season because maybe we can come back at the end of April, look back in the comments, and we'll see if anyone got it right. I think that'll be pretty fun to do. But like the video and subscribe because I do greatly appreciate all the support. I will continue coming with videos all off season as there's things to talk about because I will remain a quality over quantity guy. A lot of people say it, but a lot of people don't mean it because there's a lot of channels out there dropping daily content with nothing to talk about. And quite frankly, a lot of the videos are just boring. I mean, no shade to anyone, of course. I mean, do what you got to do. It's all about just having fun at the end of the day. Like drop videos for, you know, if you enjoy them. But I don't like to force content out there when there's nothing to talk about. That's all I gotta say. But I'll see y'all next time. Peace out, y'all.
Pull up in your city trying to get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.